I just want to say I'm a little blown away with the amount of people in here. This is truly a unique state and a unique organization in a state. Did you guys see that there was a Gabe Brown advertisement basically for this meeting? And, everything Gabe said about you guys in this coalition was just spot on. And I was like, I know those guys. I know a bunch of those guys in South Dakota who are pulling this off. And, it's a little ironic because we get categorized as ranchers and farmers as like classic introverts. And we're just all in this room together, and we're talking about soil, which is, guys, face it, talking about soils, people on the outside is a little bit of Geeksville, okay? So you're introverts, you're kind of antisocial people, but yet you're gathered together over this like sensational topic of soil. And it's because you got the vision of the transformation from dirt. Or maybe you're just beginning to. Anyway, that's what we're going to talk about today. And, Clay, thank you, Clay, for the intro. And thanks, Tony. Tony, kind of nailed it right on the head here too, and he just mentioned how many people are in this room. It just kind of blew me away. But what I'm going to talk to you about is a little bit more of the people aspect. I'm not a soil scientist at all. I'm a new to ranching person. I've only been doing this 30 years. And, if you tried to tell me to explain the difference between protozoa and bacteria, well, I might be stammering and stumped. If you ask me to say what a mycorrhizae looks like, I would say, well, I don't know. But yet we talk about these things, we talk in these terms, and I'm here to tell you that that's fine. That's fine. There's soil scientists who totally geek out on all that biology and all that microscopic stuff that Joel Salatin can't see on the Joe Rogan podcast, but he knows it's there. And I just want to submit to you that knowing it's there, that knowledge is the thing that can get the ball rolling. And get the ball rolling through all this personnel stuff we deal with family and friends and relationships and our neighbors. When we see that gravity start happening from the living soil underneath our feet, it gets really exciting enough that we can convey it, like Tony said, to our neighbor. Anyway, we better get going here. I'm going to talk to you about weddings, okay? So I am not a wedding planner, okay? I'm a grazing guy. I'm a cow guy. We run on, lands that you can see in the background behind our cattle. Those are our mama cows, by the way. And, we run on ranges like that. But here we got this wedding. And I not only had one, I had two. And guys, just real quick word of advice on weddings. If you're thinking about maybe hiring a wedding planner, just bite the bullet and do it. Don't become your own. This is not a DIY thing, but we are DIY people, unfortunately. And so we said, oh, yeah, we can do that. We can have a 300-person wedding on the ranch, in a cow pasture. We'll just move all the cow crap and the sheep crap and the horse crap out of there, and it'll be fine, they said. And we'll put 300 people there and somehow dance on their lawn, and we'll have a band under the tent. And what if it rains? Well, we'll just fit all 300 people under the tent. No big deal, right? And we're going to do that twice in 1 year. And we're going to remodel the house. I'm going to become a Finnish carpenter again with a good friend of mine who really is a Finnish carpenter, and he's going to tell me where to hold the board and where to put the nail and where to pound the nail or run the nail gun, because I don't know anything. So meanwhile, we're trying to run a ranch and a direct market beef business and a cover crop thing where we're trying to regenerate another ranch. And it's like, maybe 2 daughters, 2 weddings is too much. And it almost was. Good thing my wife's not giving this talk. Okay, so first I'm going to just tell you what we do on Alderspring. So those are finished cattle. So we run about 100 to 200 head on the home ranch in the irrigated ground that are finished cattle that are going to finish during the summer green season. Our summer green season is a little shorter than yours. We have about 3 solid days of growing. Okay, we're at 5,000 feet elevation. We can get snow or rain, or snow from rain any day of the year. We can freeze any day of the year. We're finally frost-free around May 20, but generally not enough to bank on. The corn's going to freeze if you put corn in the garden. It will freeze during a day in June. Same thing in September. By Labor Day, it's over. You're just losing degree days like crazy. So you got 3 days, 3 months at 5,000 feet to get the growth you're going to need to sustain the whole operation for the year. Anyway, we're going to leave these cattle home. We're not going to take them on the range. These are finished cattle that we're putting into our direct market beef program under alderspring.com. We mail beef, ship beef all over the country every 2 weeks. And it's successful. And we kill about 400 head a year on that deal. Those are finishers. Here's some of them close up. And this is right next to the finishers. This is our mama cow herd, cow-calf pairs. A little over 200 of those guys. We pick up some cattle from other people who are also certified organic grass-fed, kind of meet our same protocol. So we're running those guys. We're calving in May and June. We used to do January and February at 5,000 feet. It just wasn't working out, you know. I wasn't getting any sleep. I was much younger then. But anymore, I'm like realizing we're going to let the cow be our employee and take care of her own dang calf, okay? So that's what she's doing right now. That's our workforce. And then we got another 350 to 500 head that we take up on the BLM Forest Service. We have a 70 square mile allotment, 70 sections, about 47,000 acres. In the middle of it, we got a 700-acre other ranch that's kind of a holding ground right in the middle of it. Anyway, we start down here by the Sand River at about, 3,900, 4,000 feet elevation, and we eat along the river bottoms with our cattle for about 3-4 days. We're on horseback the entire summer. We actually live with our cattle. You can see here we are at about 4,500 elevation now. We're just going up. We're just following the green as it comes. The snow leaves first, snow moves, and about 2 weeks later, here come the green. And we just follow that green tide going up the mountains. Okay, it's about a 400 to 600 mile journey. We've actually put GPS in our saddlebags because we're wondering how many miles was it? Sometimes it was as much as 1,000 miles. Most times it averages around 450 to 550 miles that these cattle and horses and these people with them walk through the course of the summer. So here we are now, we're cresting up around 5,500. Plants are changing the whole time. Plant communities just change with this gradient. We start down in cactus, rattlesnake, scorpions, and then we're finally beyond the scorpions and the cactus, but we're in blue bunch wheatgrass, dominated with sagebrush, still a lot of rattlesnakes up here. Now, here I am. My daughter took a picture of this. I said, let's grab a shot of this because this is a really cool picture. So I'm halfway up on the 70 square miles. It's a big, like, kind of funnel-shaped grazing range with the Salmon River at the bottom. And you can see right there is Taylor Peak. That's still on the grazing range. It's just under 10,000 feet. Okay, remember we left about 3,900. So we're just, the methodology is up pretty much the whole time while you're grazing these cattle. Okay, now this whole thing that you see in this entire picture is all our grazing country. And you can see it's much more expansive than 46,000 acres fields because it's all up and down. It's just, you drop 2,000 feet, go up the next hill, and it's just up and down, up and down, up and down. So everybody's got to get acclimated to that, from the cattle to the horses to everybody. So anyway, here's our first cow camp. This we call Mitten Camp. We camp in random locations all the way through the range. Through the entire course of summer, there's probably 10 to 15 cow camps. And you can see all it is some cheesy little canvas teepees, canvas wall tent out there in the wind in the middle of absolute nowhere. And so we bed our cattle down every night right with us. So the main thing of the day in that grazing journey is to get those cattle full. Because if they're not getting full, guess what? We're not making money. And we're a profitable business. We're running this thing to make money, okay? But I'll tell you some other reason why we're going to run too. So anyway, here we go. We're now at about 6,000. By the way, these guys, I just grabbed this picture off the internet this week. This is Colorado. They're dumping wolves out in Colorado right now. We went through this back in 1995. In fact, I remember when they arrived, I was firefighting part-time, a wildland firefighter, and I was at my fire dispatch when they arrived in boxes, and we were running cattle up on the ranges, and I crawled over to one of these boxes, and, everybody's milling around. We just got off fire. We're dirty, just pulling our web gear off. And I crawl over, and there's this big female wolf in there. It says female in the box. That's how I know. It's not like I can look at a wolf and say, are you a girl? No. So red female. And so I'm looking at her, and she and I are able to have our eyes this far apart. And I just said to her, she's staring right back. She's just steel, and I'm just steel. And I just said to her, are you going to change my life forever? And she nodded, no. But she did. She totally changed how we run. And like Clay talked about, that 14 head, on our finish program, that's about $50,000, that we lost that year. And these were all coming close to finished cattle. And these wolves descended on us. We had a big pack up there, and we had a den. And I called Fish and Game, and I said, I don't even know what to do. I said, we're going to pull out of here. We're taking all our cattle home. And he said, well, it's in your rights to kill them all. Just kill them all. I said, kill them all. He said, yeah, just go in that den, kill the mom, kill the whole pack, and kill all the pups. Just kill them. Go up there. This Fish and Game told me this. And I said, wait, you radio collared all these pups? He said, yeah, we did. Just give me the collars back, will you? And don't try not to shoot the collars. It was just ludicrous. I mean, I wasn't a wolf freak or a wolf fan or anything like that. And I was the enemy to them, and they were the enemy to us. I was against the whole idea. But when he mentioned all that, something tipped in my head. And I don't know what it was. And it was just this thing where I thought, you know what? It doesn't seem right. Maybe there's a way we can coexist. Anyway, so we spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out how to do that. So what it meant is we started herding these cattle through these big landscapes. Here's a riparian area. And guess what? I got a friend of mine who runs Turner Ranches for Ted Turner. He's the head of all Turner Ranches. His name is Mark Hostler. He's stationed out of Bozeman, Montana. I basically was raised in ranching by his brother. And Mark said to me, you know what? These dang bison, they don't like being down in creeks. Instinctively, they're outside of riparian areas. He said, it's cattle, it's domestic cattle that got that riparian thing going on. So, while we were herding them to protect them from wolves, we thought, hey, we could restore these riparian areas too, because we weren't quite making standards. And my wife happens to be a PhD wetland plant ecologist, and she was like, we got to figure out a way to get these riparian areas turned around and get our cows out of there. They don't belong down there. Let's try not to do it. So that was part of our experiment, and it worked. And you can see we're just doing this right now with reinforcement, but toward the end of the summer, these cattle generally stay out of riparian areas. We can keep them out. We got 55 miles of creeks up there. I'm seeing trout where I never saw trout before. Beavers have come in, recolonizing. It's changed everything. Here you can see Aspen Camp. This is a mid-level camp. You can see the cook shack right there, and you can see, or maybe you can't, there's a little troop of teepees down there for people sleeping. Got a horse pasture here. This is our cow night pen. And you can see one little teepee there, and you're like, wonder what that's about. That's Linnea. She's sitting in the back. She sits there with a 6-gun, or she's got an automatic pistol, and she's got her dog sleeping with her alone, because somebody's always got to sleep with the cattle. No matter, a lot of times they're not spiked out by camp. Somebody's always got to be with the cattle. Here you can see our last camp of this summer. This is about 8,200 feet elevation. You can see just solid dark timber. What we're grazing up here are parks and open areas. And we put this tent complex down along a creek in a little park. Our horse pasture's right here. And we haven't grazed this for 12 years. This was our first year in 12 that we come back. Our average rotation coming back to this ground is about 3.5 years. So we're breaking the cycle of continuous grazing up there. And, we're using the trails that were established by these guys. There's bison horns and wallows up on our range. Bighorn sheep, there were tons of them. Now there's elk. These guys followed them and killed them. And it gets really complex. It gets, some really hairy country. You want to keep these cattle together because if you've got a stray, we had wolves right near where this was. This year, they were howling above our camp at night. We're going to lose them. Don't want to do that. Here's the herd. The kids got it. I took off on a dirt bike to get this picture. You can see the Lemhi Range right behind. That's about 350 head of cattle. And this is what it looks like. Middle elevation dug fur. Everybody's got their head down. When everybody's got their head down, I know we're making money. Cowboys and, stock people in the West are really good at moving cattle, but are really good at grazing cattle. Because, if you watch how your cattle move, generally, the way we move cattle in the West, their heads are up. And when their heads are up, we ain't making money. We're not making anything. We're losing money if their heads are up. So the main thing I ask the kids when we get up there is, heads down. Make sure those heads are down while you're moving. They got to be eating. Otherwise, we're not making money. Anyway, this is what we came for. There's about 2,200 native plants up here. My wife is the one who figured that out. And most of them are edible. That's Indian paintbrush. A lot of you probably know blue bunch wheatgrass right behind it. That's arenaria right to the left of it. That's hooded phlox right down below at the foot of it. These cattle eat all those plants. Diversity. Same thing here. That's bitterroot right there. The only thing they don't eat are the woodies, sagebrush and the pine trees, cactus. So anyway, then we come down with the cattle, come off the range, and you can see them all running there in one big bunch. And we got stockpile grass in the river bottoms, and we feed quite a bit of hay. Okay? So that's kind of how we run the whole deal. There's salmon spawning right in that river behind us. So that means we got to put up temporary hot wire to keep them out of there, because these salmon come 900 miles. They're a listed species, but we have them spawning on the ranch. Then, of course, we got a hay operation. We got a cover crop operation. We got 12 pivots, and it just kind of keeps the whole thing rolling. And it's all just to get beef. It's a vertically integrated deal, right? We calve out, and we sell this beef direct to people, okay? So anyway, let's go back to the wedding. This is why the wedding really messed up my brain as a grass guy. I mean, the grass, I talked about, profitability, and talked about having heads down. The grass is everything for us. I don't really like the term grass farmer. I've heard people call me that, and I guess it's appropriate, but I'm really a grass geek. That grass has got to be taken off. And what this looks like right now, to me, to my eye, is a fairway. How many golf? Okay, it's not a putting green, okay? Putting green is like this short. Boom, it's like this carpet. Fairway is a little longer, okay? You can find your ball, basically, on a fairway. When it goes into rough, maybe you're going to lose it. Some of this is rough, but a lot of it's fairway. I could hit a golf ball across this thing, and I could see where it lands and go take the next shot. Definition of fairway. So these cattle are on a fairway. We're still rotationally grazing, but I've lost control of the management of these cattle. They're staying on these pieces of ground too long, and they're eating it down to like 1 inch stubble height. And I'm going down the road after being a finish carpenter. I can't even look. It's a mess. And it's because I know I'm probably taking money out of the bank account of what that grass has become, what that soil's become. And for me, for what we've built up over the years, it's a big deal. Then with that little bit of sunlight getting through that plant canopy, guess what? The demonic plants manifest, okay? So for us, it was Canada thistle. The seed source has always been there. We've always had, Canada thistle. If you see the down go out, when the seed heads erupt, it's drifting forever, all right? It's going to go out there. It's going to find a way. It's going to be, that stuff can live on or in the soil for 50 years. So if you have it and you give it a chance to manifest, guess what? Now you have it, My brother, he's a cover crop guy. He said, no, Glenn, no plant is a weed. You can graze that. And of course we did. But you get to a certain height, life stage, it gets too bristly, and they won't bother with it anymore. You can't make a cow eat it unless if you just cordon her in there, and then they're not gaining weight. So I sent Montana out there with the little Alice and a sickle bar, and he spent a few days knocking it off. No big deal, right? But maybe we do have the other thing The other problem with weddings is that I got no bandwidth to deal with problems for my cattle up on the range with cow camp. Because I got people living up there, right? It's pouring down rain. We got 270% of normal up there. And it's making mud of the roads. It's 2.5-hour drive from the ranch. Guess what? Now it's a 4. And guess what? This crew member right now, it's Evan from Canada. He's from Saskatchewan. He's hungry. You know why? Ran out of food. I can't get food up to him. They've been a day and a half without food. So Annie took this as a sad picture. But I eventually got up there, but they just ran out of food because I couldn't get there. You know, it's all these stresses of just life come in, and it's all about people. But we had these weddings anyway. And they were some of the most beautiful times in my life. Everybody was fed good. We had this pit boss who's an internationally renowned pit boss competitor show up at the wedding. He was Wesley, my son-in-law's wrestling coach, and he said, "Hey, I'm pit boss." And I'm like, "I don't even know what that is." I'm like, "Pit stop, like car racing?" And he said, No, I'm a pit boss. And he said, "Look, behind my truck." And he's got this gigantic smoker on wheels. It's a dually smoker. And he said, "Where do you want it?" I said, "What?" He said, "Well, don't you got something?" He said, "You guys raise beef." I said, "I get about 250 pounds of tri-tip." He said, "Perfect. Show it to me." So anyway, this guy cooks the tri. It's like the best tri-tip anybody's ever had. And he just showed up. This is how God works, by the way. And he just showed up, and it just blew me away. This is such a beautiful wedding. And there's Becky and Dylan dancing. And Dylan really doesn't dance, but it was fun to watch anyway. And Becky is a really good bluegrass mandolin player, and we have a little band. And she wanted to sing a bunch of songs and play some music, so she had that. And here's Maddie's wedding in October. And she picked this gown. I was like, wait, let me get this straight. You want to ride horseback with a gown like that? And she's like, "Oh, yeah, Dad, it'll be fine." So the day before she shows up, she calls me. She's on the other side of the ranch. And she says, "Hey, I got the 2 critters over here." And I said, wait, who do you got? She said, "Well, I got Flint and, crap, what is the name of that dumb mare? Spark. Oh, it's Spark and Flint. That's right. Yeah. So, and I got Spark and Flint. And I said, wait, let me get this straight. Okay, these guys are almost still colts. And we're going to do a wedding, 300 people watching. I said, anything can happen. She said, "I know, it's going to be all right, though." So the day before, I said, we're going to do a shakedown cruise the day before. Because they hadn't been ridden. We'd been off the range for a month, So, and they're fine when they're on the range. But if they, like any horse, left to her own devices for a little too long, well, you kind of got to get a trust relationship going again. Anyway, she gets on. She's wearing this long Outback duster. And it goes to flopping. And guess what? Her gelding just starts running. And I'm running with her. What the heck, We didn't see the hot wire. Hot wire hit her right about here. And then she went to bucking. And when I saw that, I just pulled that mare around that I was on in a nice circle and tried to hold things together. And she goes to bucking. And I was like, well, that was a good shakedown cruise. Everything will be fine tomorrow. So, and it almost blew up because that dang gown, this gelding kept stepping on that gown. And I thought, this is going to be an absolute 100% wreck, but I think God showed up there too. Anyway, we rode up to the people. She got off. I walked her down the aisle, and it was just a beautiful day. And this is the end of the aisle, just a beautiful little quake and asp patch here. Just a beautiful wedding. Fantastic. So wedding ends, November, December. And, I'm still kind of kicking myself because major grazing failure, And it's not like people know what they're looking at going by or anything. I'm not worried about what people think. I just know I totally screwed this grass up. And my daughter is out there chasing our horse stock around. We get about 45 horses on winter pasture, and they go dig. We just pull their shoes off, and they go dig. And usually that's enough, and they keep in really good shape, and it's good for them to go digging. Anyway, she takes these pictures, and she shoots them me. She says, "Dad," this is after this cold spell we just had. She said, "Dad, check these pictures out." And these horses are eating green grass. It's January. And it's like freaking me out because I've never had this before. I've never had green grass in February. And it's been cold. Ground is frozen. And Nicole Masters, during COVID, she holed up with us for about 2 months. She told me, hey, Glenn, this grass never will shut down if you got it regenerated. If you got that soil life going under there, this grass will never shut down. That soil will continue. It'll be slow, but it will continue. And I mean, there's enough green in there I could have taken a bricks. That's why these horses are fatter than pigs, all right? I never had that before. And I look at my neighbors and they don't. You know, they're running a pretty tight fertilizer program, herbicide or whatever. Anyway, I just want to tell you this. You might think I know something, but I really don't. I really don't. I didn't know anything about any of this soil stuff until about 3-4 years ago, when it really started coalescing. And it was because I came to things like this. I talked to other people, but I also just watched the cows. I watched that land, okay? But this is where it started. These are ribeyes on the left, and these are Delmonicos on the right. We just sent these out to a guy in Arizona, and we just finished them in the winter. This was like a 1,300-pound heifer, and she graded prime. We didn't always used to be able to do that on grass. When we started grass-fed beef in the late 90s, early aughts, they were all selected. And, you know, we just finished a corn deal, like in the early 90s. My wife and I were finishing cattle on corn and selling them. And they were like this, you know, they were super nicely marbled. I got used to it because I got sick of killing elk and I wanted to eat some good beef. So we started feeding them corn, and boy, they finished off nice. You know, and they started looking a lot like this. Anyway, we switched to this grass-fed thing, became organic, and we started raising beef that I didn't want to eat. It didn't taste good, it was tough, and it was lean. Okay. And I'd see people at farmers markets, and they'd say, no, Glenn, you got this wrong. Grass-fed beef is always lean. It's supposed to be lean. And I was like, no, there's got to be a way. And I thought about, you know, the whole feedlot thing. The reason why they gain like crazy on a feedlot is because we're feeding them energy, right? So I did a crash course on management-intensive grazing, rotational, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it's those principles: non-continuous, high-density, short duration, long rest period, temporary paddocks. It mimics native grazers like bison and elk. And I said, we can do that. So I started doing it. And this is Abby. She's the grazing manager. This is why we totally screwed up this year, because she was having a baby, so she couldn't run the grass, right? So I'm running it. I said, Abby, don't worry, got it. No, did not. Became finished carpenter instead. So everything went to crap. And anyway, this is Abby a year before, and she's actually flying her drone while she's running this hot wire. And she got a picture. I said, I just need a picture of basic, you know, cattle moving, and that's what it looks like at home. So within 2 years, we already saw above ground results of management-intensive grazing. You know, I'm not stuck on terms. As long as it got the 3 principles. I don't care what you call it. You know, you could call it Glenn's grazing method. I don't care. You could call it anything you want. Or you could call it God's grazing method, because it's actually what the animals did before we came along. Wolves, grizz, weather, fire. Move these animals around, okay? So cover, diversity, and yield were increasing. And then we found out that stuff was happening underground too. And this just hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't even know that this paddock rotation stuff was actually changing everything about how those plants function. So anyway, Average Soil Organic Matter by NRCS, they partnered with us in 2009, came up with 2.45. I bet it was under 2 when we started ranching on this place in 2005. Anyway, 22, we do it every 2 years now. We do 65 plots, 15 centimeters deep because below it's rock. 22 is now 7.75. It's peaking at 17.7. Okay, and that's that snowy field that turned green. By the way, I talked to people here. I think it was Riley and Pat Guptill. I don't know if he's here. Pat was the one who first said to me, my grass is growing all winter. Like, you're crazy. He's, I think he's by Murdo or something like that. I talked to him at a grazing meet a bunch of years here, and I said, I want that. And son of a gun, here it's happening. Anyway, infiltration, soil infiltration test is with the 6-inch cylinder. They pound into the ground. Within 2 days after a pivot went over, pivot puts down about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch of rain. It was measured at 2.75 inches per minute. This is almost 9 to 12 inches an hour, I'm guessing. First inch goes in 8 seconds. This soil is taking water, okay? And within 10 years, we were seeing above ground results. We saw our cover go to 100. We saw diversity go up to 85 from 12. And let's talk about cover real quick. This is, Gabe Brown told me this. Look at this. And maybe a lot of you know this, but on our farm ground that we used to have, we don't have it anymore. I was taking soil temperatures after I read this stuff, and I found out it was right. I was like, 130 degrees? There's no way. But on our farm ground that's uncovered, this stuff was happening. We were getting 0% moisture retained by the soil. It was all driven off. And in 140, all the life died. He's dead, Jim. Okay, now look at this. Here's the same calf on the golf course, remember? Here's the golf course. And, you know, I got an 1 inch to 2 inch, except around the cow pies and the urine spots. They won't eat there, and I never make them do that because I think that's the way God made it. They're not supposed to eat by their crap, okay? And so anyway, look at this. I still can't see bare soil here. And it's because after these years of investing, I got two things. I got litter, and I got plant diversity covering it. So who cares about diversity? Well, Fred Provenza came out for a few days, several times, especially on the range. And I don't know if you guys know Fred. He lives over in Montana right now. He's written this great book called Nourishment. And it's about rebooting nutritional wisdom. And that sounds like us, right? But it's actually not. Fred's also talking about nutritional wisdom of animals and them having to know what they need to eat because they're either trained or it's in their genome. It's instinct that says, eat that plant. So one thing Fred talked to me about is you want to enable the cafeteria. You know, in management-intensive grazing and adaptive multi-paddock grazing, whatever you want to call it, we get in this mindset that we want to be totally non-selective. And that's the best things for the grass, we say. And I would submit to that, yes, I think that's true for the grass. But there's another part of it called animal wellness. And Fred called it self-medication. We're watching them eat some plants up on the range. And they're eating these plants. Fred's naming them all. He knows these plants. From Utah State, he's in the Rocky Mountains. He knows a lot of my plants. He said, hey, see that plant they're eating there? Look at that. It's full of terpenes. Or see that plant right there? It's full of tannins. And I'm like, well, what does that even mean? And he's like, it means, I think, that you're self-medicating. He said, that's why your cattle don't have flies on them. Either they're spreading those tannins and terpenes by licking, or it's coming through their skin. Because we don't have a fly treatment program. We can't, we're organic. So we do nothing for flies. But he knows that my flies didn't, or my flies didn't have cow counts, and my cows didn't have fly counts. And it's because he said they're self-medicating. And that can only happen when you enable the cafeteria. You know, the cafeteria is a good analog for us because we go to a cafeteria and they got, you know, the longer the better for me. And why? Because I want to try all kinds of different stuff. I think the cow's the same way. They want to try all kinds of different stuff. And instead, we reductionalize them and put them in a feedlot on corn and DDGs, right? No, not okay. So maybe we're going to allow the cow to medicate. Maybe we're going to allow the cow to maintain her own wellness by her own palate. Okay, and then there's specifics about biota. I'm not going to go through all this. But anyway, because this mycorrhizae thing, I don't even know what it looks like. I've seen little white filaments in the soil. Nicole told me that they were hyphae, okay? They're the superhighway, the interstate highway system of nutrients, sugars, water, across the soil profile, not necessarily up and down. Okay, this 24,000 mile thing, 24,000 miles is the circumference of the equator around the globe. I don't know what grad student did this, but I read a paper that said they're estimating that 6 inches deep on 1 acre on healthy soil, you got 24,000 miles of hyphae on 1 acre. Okay, this is like Joel talking to Joe Rogan, right? You know, with the teaspoon. This blows me away because this actually makes me see why that water gets stuck in the soil. It's made this sponge-like lattice in there. Because of the mycorrhizae, because of all this life in the soil, that's where the water's going. Look at what it did for us on grass productivity. I just took the amount of cattle I could support per month, okay? Took my hay crop, figured it all in there, converted it back to animal units. This only goes to 21. I haven't done it to 23, but I'm pretty dang sure the curve kept increasing. Maybe it flattened off a little bit because of wedding. Totally good with it at this point in time, right? But anyway, look at this. We've about doubled the productivity on the ranch. Here's another cool thing. Mud season ended. And you might say, what the heck are you talking about, mud season? This used to be a headache for us because we live on volcanic ash, and volcanic ash is like bentonite. It just turns into muck, sticky muck that fills your tire treads, fills your chain. You might chain up. It's going to fill your chains up, and you're going to spin. We had to feed with a team of horses. Thank God we had them for several years because we couldn't get out in the fields with anything else. It was funny. We had a team of horses going by feeding these cattle, and they're working. They got to work to get through this crap, okay? And what's funny is we're taking the team of horses, and we go by the backhoe. It's up to its hubs. And then we go a little further. We go by a 1-ton pickup. It's up to the hubs. And then we go by, there's 3 vehicles. There's a tractor with a broken axle. There's another one that was buried up to the oil pan. And then there was a truck buried up to the oil pan. We couldn't get them out for a month. And we just fed with the team. And it was this dreaded thing for us. And I'm driving out here checking these cattle. And it's raining when I took this picture out the window. And there's snow that's melting up there. You can see the snow. There was 6 inches of wet snow in the morning, and by now in the afternoon, it was slush. And look at how much standing water do you see? None. My neighbors all have lakes on their places. And it just hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't even know what was happening. Okay, look at this. Here's the snow before the rain hit, and here's the snow after the rain really started putting holes in it. And look at that pivot track. Normally, my pivot track's full of water this time of year. Okay, they're conduit. There's no water in my pivot track. It's because even with the ground still frozen, it's taken all. Have you ever heard that joke about how much rain you get at the feed store, and there are people talking to each other, how much rain you get? Oh, we got about 4 inches on my gauge. And now, with people who figured out this soil regenerative thing, the thing to say is, how much rain you get? And then you're supposed to say, all of it. All of it, okay? I got all of it. I got all the rain. I got all the snow. It didn't run off into the river. I think that's cool stuff. Anyway, so what that did is it just gave us resilience through times when we weren't able to irrigate. Maybe a pivot would break down. We got 12 pivots. They break down all the time. They're machines, right? Not a big fan of machines, but we use them and they bless us. We keep them maintained, but they break. Maybe they got a flat tire. Maybe my custom guy who's making the hay had a swather breakdown or a baler breakdown, which is very common, even though he's got 3 of each. Maybe the rain hit up the valley, down by us, we're cooking. Guess what? Our residual regrowth from the hay is staying green. Now you're wondering what the heck this picture is, and it's a good question, valid question. Okay, so this is taken from a telescope that NASA shot up into the sky and stuck out there on the other side of the moon. James Webb Space Telescope. I've always been kind of an astronomy geek, even though I don't really understand any of it. I just like looking at stars. But anyway, so I'm on this site that regularly downloads me pictures. They picked this blank pinprick in the sky, pointed James Webb toward it, and ran a time exposure, okay? So all these objects in James Webb are galaxies. These are all Milky Way galaxies. They each contain several million to a billion stars. Who knows how many trillions of planets? Okay, do I understand anything about this? Absolutely not. Can I be impressed and say, this is wonder, 100%. That's the same way I see the soil thing. I don't understand any of it. I just see the outflow, and it's blowing me away. Okay, so we're cow people, a lot of farm people here too. What does this mean? So I translate everything to economics because if we don't make money, Carol and I started this ranch with 7 cows, and we had $30,000 in savings. That's how we started everything. There's no equity train. We didn't have anything, okay? We started from nothing, and we don't want to go backwards. We want to make money. So that sounds rather self-absorbed, but it's necessary. Economic survival is necessary. And you know what else it is? It's fun. It's fun to make money, okay? So anyway, look at this. ADGs are up 1.5. ADG is average daily gain. We're up to 4 pounds a day. What do a lot of feedlots get? 4 pounds a day, okay? Doctoring rate, way down. Vet costs, down. Doubled our capacity on a home ranch. It was like getting another ranch for free. Death loss, under 2%. We were profitable. Still are. And you're wondering, what's the mechanism of why this happens? Anybody know what this is? It's a really cheesy picture with my phone through a refractometer glass. Okay, this is the thing that measures Brix. And we say that Brix percentage is the percentage of sugar in the sap of a plant after you run it through a garlic press. You drip it onto this refractometer. I use it all the time. I carry one with me in a truck usually, all the time. I got a garlic press. I go through garlic press. If anybody sees a great garlic press, let me know, because I'm about to weld my own, okay? Because they all don't do well with the amount of pressure that you got to apply to get the sap out. So anyway, here we got right around 27% Brix. And I'll show you what this is on. And you can see that line's faded. It's a hard line to ascertain. Looks much better when you look through the glass. Then you can see a little bit of blue color too. But my phone didn't pick that up well. But anyway, look at this. I take this picture. Every time I take a Brix, kneel down, take a picture of what the sward looks like. So I got all these plants here. You can see alfalfa beginning to get frosted, coming into bloom. And this is late October, and you can see some orchard grass, quack grass, and smooth brome and Kentucky blue down there. What I do when I do a Brix is I sample them all, put them in a refractometer, see where I'm getting. So that's what I'm getting now, especially in the fall. Fall's the best grass of the year for me. Okay, and that's why. Dan Rasmussen's here somewhere, I think. Dan runs a 33 ranch south of Kadoka and Belvedere, Highway 44. Just west of White River. This is a heifer of his. He sent me, I think she weighed about 450 pounds when I picked her up in May. Okay, now she's graded out on that kind of Brix, and you can tell she grade prime. Tomahawk, by the way. Best cut of meat. So anyway, think about Brix and this phytochemical richness and plants are, being the self-medication for an animal that is trying to maximize their palates. And I know that's a lot of weird, geeky stuff to think about. I didn't make it up. I've had these people, these scientists, come out and tell me this stuff. It's fascinating. One time, Fred Provenza and I were watching cattle go by because the kids were trailing them through the woods. Anyway, and he's watching them, and they're all eating different stuff. And this is where we get into the selective grazing versus non-selective. And, we're moving them fast enough that you think it could be non-selective grazing. But yet, I'm watching them, and they're all eating different stuff. It's because just like you and I in the cafeteria line, when I sit down across this gentleman, from across this gentleman, his plate is going to look different than mine. It's because we want different things. Cows are the same way. They want different things. So there is probably 75 species on this site here. They're all eating different things. So this is what it looks like when you get over, okay? It still looks like, well, there's grass there. And it looks like it's non-selective grazing. But what I would submit to you is that because everybody's palate is different, it's all balancing out. Because they're all trying different things while they're moving. Okay, so be careful when you say, we want to be 100% non-selective. You actually want them to get the phytochemicals they need and eat according to what their palates are telling them to eat. This isn't my idea. This is Fred and another guy, Stefan Van Vliet. He's a metabolomic research from Utah State University. He came out, took a whole bunch of samples of plants. Samples are beef, by the way, said, because they're eating this is what Stefan said. He didn't say, Glenn, you're awesome. He said, Glenn, your plants are awesome. He said, you have got the first beef sample out of 1,000 of cattle that have higher omega-3 fatty acids than omega-6. You're the first one that we have ever had that happen. And it's because they're just able to self-maximize on this. By the way, just go back here. I was on my horse for these two pictures that are not perfect, but I tried to make them a photo pair. 2.5 minutes, I timed it on my phone. It took 2.5 minutes to run 400 head over that picture. And we won't be back for 3.5 years. This is breaking the cycle of continuous grazing that's been going on 120 years on an allotment. That's what we're trying to do across the whole place because I think the plants need it. Drier country like this is a 7 to 10 inch precip zone, long rest periods. At home, we're effective 25 inches, 30 days, still working. It's just accommodating your selection pressure and how you graze with the environment. Look at this is really cool. After Fred, I really started paying attention to these cattle. He spent more time looking at the cattle than me. And it's kind of humbling, actually. But, I just realized with a guy like Fred and Stefan, I need to shut up and listen because these guys got stuff, okay? So look at this. I started watching this. I turned these cattle out onto this alfalfa paddock, and this is late October. I know, look at the sky. I know it's going to freeze tonight. We're at 5,000 foot elevation. It's going to 100% freeze tonight. And guess what cattle do on frozen alfalfa? What do? They die. They die. Just plain, it's happened to me. So I've lost a lot of cattle on frozen alfalfa. So I'm freaking out. But when I put in this paddock, I said, I'm going to put enough of these grass breaks in here because this isn't a great alfalfa stand anymore. It's kind of wore out. So I got a lot of grass coming in. It's like, hopefully I'll have enough grass in here to offset the alfalfa. Otherwise, I'm going to have to come back here. I actually camped down here at midnight and get them off this stupid thing. I just sat back, and this is a shut up and listen thing. I'm watching these cattle. These are all yearling and 2-year-old cattle. They're eating exactly what I want them to. I know the alfalfa will be gone by tomorrow, but I'm hard-pressed to find anybody eating alfalfa. I'm wondering if they know, and you guys might be thinking, oh, man, this guy's has been spending too much time out there. And maybe I have. But the fact of the matter is these dang cows know a lot more than we think they do. And I'm wondering if they're actually self-medicated and saying, hey, if we eat that straight alfalfa, given this choice, we better eat this stuff because we're going to be fine. And we're not going to feel bloated. I'm reading this Wendell Berry book right now, and I've read a lot of Wendell Berry's. And, this was just published in 2018. He's getting old, and his wife said, Wendell, the reason you're successful is because you have this fantastic propensity for repeating yourself. I thought that was funny because he's writing the same stuff that he did like back in the 80s and 70s, It's the same kind of thoughts. He's just trying to hammer it home. It's a dense book because Wendell is the kind of writer, you read a sentence, it's like, okay, got to stop for a second on that one, okay? And he's talking in his book about husbandry. I just talked to my daughter about another book she read just a couple years ago. She took a Wendell Berry class at university, which is ironic that they would actually think that's a good thing. But anyway, she read, it was, I think it was The Unsettling of America she read. And there was a whole chapter in there about this word on the left, husbandry. And I'm seeing it show up in this book too. The guy is hung up, he's high-centered on this husbandry thing. And I never really got my brain around why. That's my wife, Carol, and she'd be really angry. Don't tell her that I put that. She gets really angry if I put her in pictures, but I think she's beautiful there. This is the thing about husbandry. And if you haven't figured this out in marriage, you're in trouble, okay? So maybe this is a marriage seminar that you're at right now. But I've talked to people who are like 56 years old or 56 years into marriage. And I asked the guy, hey, do you really understand your wife now after 50 years? And he said, it's worse than ever. I understand her worse than ever. And I'm like, wow, can relate to that deal. Anyway, we're out there in Seattle. I don't know, I think we just wanted to see some green. It was a really hot, dry year. Came out there, we rented a house together and spent some time. I said, so what do you want to do tomorrow, honey? She said, I want to go chase orcas. And I'm like, what? You want to chase orcas? And she's like, 100%. I want to get on a boat and we're going to go chase orcas. I was like, is that a thing? She's like, yeah, I've been checking it out. There's people that chase orcas. She said, I want to go. I said, well, what the heck? Let's go. I don't know nothing about it. I mean, this is 36 years of marriage, right? She wanted to go chase orcas. Never mentioned a word about it before. Okay, is this some kind of weird dream she had? I don't know. Maybe it was the pizza. I don't know. But she wants to chase orcas. So we go, it was fantastic. You're going in these speedboats at 40 knots across Puget Sound. These guys got them on radar and are communicating with other people who are spotting orcas. And you're going out there, wide open. We're up on the upper deck. The skipper just let us be up there with him. He said, you guys want to be up here in the window? I was like, heck yeah. So we got up there and we're just ripping across this vast expanse of water between the U.S. and Canada. And son of a gun, we find these dang killer whales in these pods. It just blew me away. She wanted to go spot orcas. Didn't know that. Okay, so she and I just came back from a trip. We did a little hiking. Let the kids feed the cows. It's 25 below zero. We went to Utah. Okay, go hiking. So we really like looking at these petroglyphs, dinosaur tracks, and red rock canyons. We do a lot of slot canyons and stuff like that. And anyway, we find this one set of petroglyphs. I take a picture of it. And this was, a lot of them have footprints or handprints or little cocopellis or little sheep on them or something. This one's got nothing on it that I can recognize, okay? And she looks at it and says, well, this is obvious. This is not a Anasazi person. He's been captured by aliens. This is a spaceship about to take off. Okay, the only thing I recognized, I thought, this is a YTEX ear tag with 00 on it, but then I realized they don't have YTEX, okay? Anyway, I look at that, and as we walked away from there, I was like, that's your brain to me. I 100% don't get you. And she says, yeah, that's okay. I think I get you. And I said, why? She said, because it's on and off. That's it. One toggle switch. That's it. The 3 S's. And I was like, sleep, supper, and something else. And anyway, so when we talk about husbandry, think about that. And here's the other thing about husbandry that kind of blows me away. I don't know if you guys are followers of Jesus or anything like that or readers of the Bible, but this guy, Apostle Paul, he writes in one of his books, I don't even know which one. I'd have to ask the pastor this one probably. And he said, husbands, love your wives like Christ loved the church. And I'm not a very good Christian person, but I do know that the idea was that Jesus was going to die for the church. Okay? So I think about that. When Wendell Berry used the word husbandry, I'm wondering if that's maybe the kind of relationship we need with the land instead of stewardship. Stewardship is kind of a caretaker thing. Sometimes it can have emotion in it, sometimes very clinical. But I was like, maybe we need to reestablish husbandry and be thinking about that and how we can build these relationships, not only with the people. We talked about people, Clay. We got a lot of people. We got 27 employees last year. Talk about incredible payroll, but we get a lot done. And it's beautiful because most of them are young people. But it's not only a relationship with the people, it's a relationship with the land. And it's a relationship to the critters that we share it with. Maybe the wild animals. Maybe it's those dang fish. And what I'm realizing is I'm running out of time. I'm 62. And I could be done any minute. Hopefully I keep working until I'm 80, 90. That'd be wonderful. My dad didn't quit working until he's 91. A stubborn Dutch dairy farmer. Okay, but here's Maddie and Wesley. They just got married in October. They are 19 years old, okay? And they live up in cow camp all summer. That's where they kind of fell for each other. And I'm already seeing some of this husbandry start flowing through their veins. They're seeing stuff in cattle that I never noticed before. They're seeing even stuff on the land and the plants that I never noticed before. So there's 4 things I try to carry with me when I think about husbandry and this Wendell Berryism of how to have a relationship, how to build those relationships back with not only our family and each other, but with the land. First, I learned from history, especially prehistory. So that means going way back and finding out what our country looked like before we showed up and what the functionality was. Why are the prairie grasses in South Dakota largely extirpated, When I was going to go to Dan Rasmussen's one time in a 33, and I said to my wife, Carol, I said, can you find some botanical indexing of his county? She said, sure. So this is like just east of the Badlands, a little bit of Badland country tangled in, just east of Rosebud, between Rosebud and White River. I hope that's right, Dan, along 44. And anyway, 2,300 native plants, cataloged there by botanists in the 1800s. I don't know if they're still there. I'm wondering. That's an incredible amount of diversity. This is no trees. This is no sagebrush. This is just forbs and grasses, South Dakota. Blows me away. That's prehistory. This picture is taken just right along the San River above me. This guy, Lorenzo Falls, first colonist, Pacimari Valley, 1873. Okay? Lorenzo writes in his journal, he's the first rancher in the valley. He said, this is great cattle country. Grass is always over my stirrups. And the best part of it is there's not a sagebrush in this valley. And now we're covered with sagebrush. We're covered with sagebrush. Okay? But when Lorenzo was there just 150 years ago, no sagebrush. What the heck does that mean? That's learning from history, right? The other thing is shut up and listen. And I don't want to make, Stefan van Vliet and Fred Provenza say they're beaver. That's not what. But those guys have poured so much into me patiently. And it was only because I was able to listen. Okay? But so has this rodent. I've read everything I can about it. When they started colonizing our range, we never had them before. Now they're holding water back. They're creating deep soils along riparian areas. They're bringing fish habitat back. There's 85 of them there where we didn't have them before, okay? And I am learning now from the beavers because I go there and watch them and see what they're doing. They're kind of blowing me away. Their ingenuity and just the fact that they'll go cross country. They're going 6 miles an hour. Wolves go up to 37. Why will they cross 10 miles of rangeland to get to my creek? I'm just barely coming up with answers. And then the other thing I've realized is it's never about us. It might be, maybe not the humans in our lives, but maybe it's the cattle. Maybe it's the horses under our care. Maybe it's the land. But I feel like I've been asked to do this. And the maker didn't say, do this for you. It was not about me. And now I feel like that not about me is these 7 daughters. It's the next generation of the people on that landscape. And then the other thing is, we realize that we need to have life express. We need to allow it to express. When we're calving the old way in January and February, we're in a barn in a corral, pulling out heavies, putting them in the barn at night, go out there, let them go in the morning if you missed one, and hopefully you can calve them in the pen. That way the calves won't freeze to the ground. And then we got them in these rectilinear paddocks. We were running a little bit of hot wire there. They were all square, and then they were like sausage links on a string, one paddock after another, all separated. They were square. We had high tensile, square. We dropped all that. Because now we're learning stuff like this. See those little specks on the left? I've never seen this before until we start calving in big expanses. And you guys in South Dakota, some of you are already doing this in May and June. This is May and June. There's like 3 cows out there and 60 calves. We call it the nursery. Somehow they delegate, and I know a bunch of you guys have seen this, somehow they delegate who's going to watch the babies while everybody else goes eat. Because we got coyotes. We got bald eagles pick up afterbirth all day long. These cows will go after them. I never knew this happened until now. I'm seeing life express. For us, this next generation is kind of everything. Clay's right. I do love these young people. Because look at my hair color. Pretty common in the room here. Hello? We're not going to be around forever, guys. And we need to get them to pick up the ball in the right way instead of the wrong way. Because agriculture has lost its way. And we need to bring it back. And that's what this whole meeting's about. We need to bring it back. And we need to pass it on to these people. Look at this guy, second from right. He just reapplied for the internship. We don't pay. He's from Scotland. His name is Bo. And he wears kilts sometimes. And he worked for us last year. And he's a super smart kid. But he didn't know anything. And he said, I just want to come back and learn more. And you know what I think he's got in his blood veins now? He's got a little bit of husbandry starting to flow through. He's starting to see the connectivity. And that's the way all these young people are. We just came off the range as our last day. And we took this picture of the crew, and they survived. They've been up there for the entire summer. This is September now. And their dogs lost weight. They had each other's backs. They lived through rain and snow and heat and hail. And it's been tough. A lot of them lost weight too. It was a really challenging year for a lot of them. But what they've built, besides that husbandry flowing through bloodstream, they've built relationships that'll last a lifetime in that. And I think that's what we've lost. That's why part of this is so encouraging to me, because I see a community of people here, and that's really the way we're made. We're tribal. And we can be tribal in a relationship with the land. Anyway, happy trails to you all. Thank you.